Here we are, another new edition of Celtics Beat, second one within a week. We appreciate it. Look, we're when things are good, when things are fun, it just makes us want to keep talking about this team. Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti, and of course, our very special guest, kind enough to join us multiple times throughout the season, Mike Gorman, television voice of the Celtics, going back, 4 decades, basically. A Hall of Famer, recognized by the Hall in Springfield. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm great. How could I possibly be bad with what's going on with this team?
That's right. Well, that's exactly right. I can't ever recall seeing a turnaround like this. I mean, maybe there has been one by any. I'm talking about anybody playing, be it baseball, football, and suddenly playing half their season and being no better than a 500 team at best, and all of a sudden the second half of the season they 21-4 or 21-3 or something in the first 24 games, and not just getting lucky. I mean, beating people over the head
Right.
with the ball. You know, I mean, winning, getting out in front. It's fun. One of the things I remember most about the '80s Celtics, and not to go comparing teams, but one thing they would do is, and we did all the home games, and I didn't go out on the road, so they would just destroy people at home all the time, and they'd get like an 18 or 20 point lead in the first quarter, and then it'd be 17 at the half, and we'd go to 16 after 3, and then win by 19. You know, and but they never let anybody back into games. There were no such things as, you always hear people talk and say, well, this team's got 1 or 2 runs. Thank you for that. One or 2 runs left in them. There are no runs. The game the other night, they got up a 20 on Utah, and the Jazz were never in it. Never got it even close to single digits. Forget about making a run at it. So the Celtics have margin of victory in the last like 10 games, something like 25 points a game. So can they keep this up? Why not? You know, you certainly, we would have said if we were doing this 10 games ago, they probably can't. Then all of a sudden it'd be 10-0 and would look bad. So I don't see any reason why they can't continue to do this. We'll see Sunday. It's a pretty good team from Minnesota coming in. They haven't been good in the past, but they seem to be pretty good this year. Memphis is still on the schedule, last game of the year. That may not mean anything to either side, but that's a very good team. They're playing too. Milwaukee, Chicago has really hit the skids. I don't know what's going on there, but they just seem to be losing every game. I think it's going to be interesting over these next couple of weeks to see if they can keep this up. But I don't see any reason they can't. Then you get some momentum going in the playoffs. It's a whole, you know, the thing is, people forget when you go to the playoffs, it could be like 25 or 30 more games you play over the course of a month or two. So it really is like a second season. And they sure have had a good prep for that second season right now.
It is wild. Like you mentioned, obviously the half season turnaround that we've experienced here. And I saw somebody tweeting out the other day, sort of what you're talking about. Like, when's the last time somebody can think of something like this? And a couple of the ones that sort of came to my mind, and I don't remember those seasons well enough to remember if there was some big in-season move, but I really don't think there was. You think of the St. Louis Blues, you know, the year they came back and they beat the Bruins in the Cup. They were a floundering team until January. Obviously, I think it was the year before the baseball shortened season that we had because of the pandemic, 2019, that the Nationals went out. You know, they were the worst team in the National League until July or whatever it was, and then came back, won the World Series. They were a wagon. But to your point, like, we never see this. You know, this was a team. Grandy was having fun with this on Twitter the other day, the whole, you know, how it started, how it's going. This team, it took 47 games, Mike, to win their first 23, and they've won 23 of their last 27. It's absolutely insane what they've been up to, obviously. And so, now just a game and a half out of first in the East. They're, it's still crowded, obviously, but Miami is starting to kind of fall apart just a little bit. Injuries have contributed to that, but as we saw, there's some attitude issues on that bench as well, potentially. So I mean, I'll ask you, are you ready to say not just that this team has the ability to go to the NBA Finals, but that it will go to the NBA Finals? Are you ready to get on that hill yet?
But I'll tell you this: I'll be surprised if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll be very surprised. They'll have to be upset by somebody for that to happen, which again seems crazy to say a month ago or 2 months ago. But I'm not going to say anything less than the NBA Finals would be a disappointment. I think anything less than the Eastern Conference Finals right now would be a disappointment, because I think this, they have a great record against these teams that are in front of them. It's not like these teams beat them up all year long. It's just the reverse is true. So they're going to go in a confident bunch. They've got a great player in Tatum who seems to get better as the season goes on. certainly has shown us his ability to pass the ball and how well he can pass the ball. He puts his mind to it. Brown is, consistently does something which is really good, and that he's a first quarter player by nature. He just gets the team going quickly all the time, and that's been a big help for this team that used to fall behind on the first quarter all the time. So they get all the right pieces. Everybody's playing well. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Nobody's trying to do more than they can. Marcus Smart he's the glue of this club, and people can say what they want. When trading deadline went by and he hadn't been traded, I literally did a dance. I mean, because I thought they had a shot if he left. And now with him there and probably going to be there for the long haul, I just think they've got a unique player in him. They've got a good bench coming in now. People, again, know their roles. They come out and they play their roles, and don't try to do more than that. Rob, as Williams, has really emerged as a terrific player. I mean, really a terrific game-changing type of player. And his minutes get longer every time he plays. So, I mean, they just have a lot of answers, I guess what I'm trying to say. They have a lot of strong answers for the questions is how do you do in the playoffs? And everybody says, well, the playoffs mean defense. Well, this team has been practicing and playing defense for quite some time. So it's not going to be a flip the switch and suddenly we play defense thing. This is something they've been doing for quite a while. So, and doing quite successfully. So, and it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I would say Eastern Conference Finals, anything less a disappointment. And if they got to the NBA Finals right now, as crazy as that sounds, I wouldn't be all that surprised.
Well, to that point, Ev, I think it's good that, Mike acknowledged this. Others have started to as well. I think it's good that we're moving the goalpost for this team. We should be. We shouldn't just be.
Oh, yeah.
After what we've seen over the last couple of months, we shouldn't, if this team should happen to go down in round 2 of the playoffs, let's say, we shouldn't be sitting there saying, well, this is about where people expected them to be at the start of the year. No, expectations have changed.
No question.
No question about that. But the thing with me is, and as everybody tries to play, though, what position do you want? Like, what seed do you want in the playoffs? There is lurking the 2-3 scenario where you have to play Giannis and the Bucks that I'm a little scared of before the Eastern Conference Finals, and that's really the only scenario where I see that both these teams are really excellent on both sides of the ball, and they're both spearheaded by guys that are very difficult to guard. Tatum is proving every game that he's just an absolutely wonderful all-around player. The vision's there, the handle's there, the shot making's there, the leadership is there, the defensive stuff's, it's all there. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Giannis, who, by the way, just dropped 50 points in a Game 6 of the NBA Finals not so long ago. That is the guy I'm worried about of anybody in the Eastern Conference. And whenever you play that particular team, if it's the second round in the 2-3 matchup, that's tough. If it's the NBA, if it's the Eastern Conference Finals, that's tough too. But this team has really done an amazing job once the calendar hit 2022 to just be a completely different focused team. As Mike alluded to in terms of getting out to good starts, that Jazz game was maybe the best start I've maybe ever seen in a basketball game by a basketball team. 7 minutes into the game is 28-12, and they haven't missed a shot. And I think they had 10 makes and 9 assists. It's like, yeah, that's exactly how you draw up a start to a game. And it's just the energy level's different. The quotes out of the locker room are different. You're seeing a different side of Ime. Everything has just clicked. And that switch that people always refer to that not everybody can turn on. Well, the Celtics found a way to turn that thing on. And they haven't let up since. And when you look at this team and the balance, it's remarkable. And the only thing, I think Mike had a great way to put it. It's, people had a lot of questions to ask, and they've answered a lot of them. And I think that's right. And my question for Mike as we move forward here is, what other questions do we have to ask this team before it's like, yeah, this is the only thing I think is holding this team back. And Mike, you and Scal the other night, you could, every time Derek White took a shot, it was like, oh, just please go in, because that's the last piece here. The last piece is Derek White hitting shots, and then we're really running here. Is that really it? Is it just like a consistent 10, 12 points from Derek White and this team's unstoppable, or is there other things that we might have to answer?
Well, I think everybody has to play up to what they've done so far. I think that Grant Williams off the bench has to be a physical force in the game, a guy who can go out and bother Giannis for a long period of time. If he gives up 6 fouls doing it, so what? But he'll go out and have to body people and get together with people that way. Again, White making shots certainly would be nice. I just want to see him make shots initially, so I can see the frustration on his face. I mean, he doesn't take bad shots. It's not like he's taking bad shots and missing. He's taking good shots. They're just not going down. They rattle around, they come out. So I just think that, again, if everybody sticks to what they do best and does what they do best and doesn't try to do more, which I think is a danger a little bit for the younger guys because they want to win so badly, that if things get tight, they may want to depart from what is got them there to try to go one-on-one again. I think that it's a bad habit that still exists on this team. I saw a little bit of the other night against the Jazz late. People stopped passing the ball and started just trying to go one-on-one. You can't do that. One of the things I was thinking, though, as it gave that scenario of the different teams, I can't remember a time where everybody is so dependent on one guy. You take obviously Tatum away from the Celtics, and we're not talking about any chances they have. You take Jimmy Butler away from Miami, they're not going anywhere without him. You take Giannis away from the Bucks, see you later, they're not going anywhere without him. You take Embiid away from the Sixers, they're not going anywhere. So all these teams that would like to see playoff when they're all healthy, no one is going to make it through that whole thing. I didn't mention Durant. No one's going to make it through that whole thing and never get hurt. So that's going to be the big thing, is who's going to go down in that bunch, and the Embiid and the Butler and the Tatum and the I'm leaving out somebody, but you know what I'm saying, is they're all driven by one man. And if they aren't, if that guy goes down, then that's the gift. Everybody says you don't play New Jersey, not New Jersey. You don't want to play Brooklyn. I don't care whether you play Brooklyn. You're gonna have to get through Brooklyn at some point. Play them right away. You know, and I'm not sure that's all going to work out as great as people think it is when Kyrie finally plays every game. I think there'll be a point where Kyrie wants the ball and Durant says no, and that relationship is going to start to fringe a little bit. So we'll see.
So I agree with everything that you just said in terms
There we
of
go.
obviously.
All right, we can wrap it up.
Well, no, I mean in terms of like taking away, the biggest star from each team. Of course, that's you're gonna rule that team out. But I do think that there's and I don't think I'm saying this with homer bias. I think this is a fact. I've heard
bias. No.
Well, I've heard non-Celtics fans say the same thing. I think that if you were to look at the top, let's say the rotation, the top 7 of, across every NBA team, the Celtics are about as deep, as well-rounded as you will find currently. The way they're playing, obviously, defensively as a collective unit, and then just obviously the contributions that they're getting from all those guys onto the first couple, with the bench. So I, kind of going back to what Evan was talking about of, what do we still need to see? I think that, for anyone out there with 8 games left in the regular season that is saying, there's still that thing, I don't believe in the Celtics yet. I'm not saying pencil them into the finals, but in terms of a deep run, I don't believe in the Celtics yet. You're just being defiant. At this point, you're being defiant because, it's anyone can say, well, show me in the playoffs. Fine. But what about the rest of the regular season to get there? What does it take for you to, what's missing to get you to fully buy in? And so I asked the Twitter community, Mike, and some of the answers that I got, and I thought there were some good ones here. Some people said, and I believe in this one, not having fresh legs if Ime keeps, grinding with an 8-man rotation, even during blowouts, and not getting his starters some rest. Fortunately, he did against Utah, didn't against OKC. And I think that was part of that sort of fourth quarter collapse there before they held on. Bench scoring.
Always last game for West Coast road trip till second half. It's always a disaster.
Absolutely. Bench scoring, you mentioned obviously Derek White. Some people are concerned about that. Getting cold from 3-point range, which I think, that's viable. They're on a hot streak right now. Jaylen Brown getting double teamed with Jason Tatum off the floor. And then where does your offense come from, on a consistent basis? That's valid. Overconfidence, which I would be a thing that I would worry about if not for the fact that Tatum and Brown and Smart have been around long enough to have deep runs and to get upset early. Like they've seen both sides of the coin. So the overconfidence thing, getting cocky, that really doesn't concern me. Other teams getting star calls, but not Tatum. The Nets, with Irving available for home games, as you hit on. Then, all that range to the other end of the spectrum, which is, do we have enough room for another banner? Is Boston going to be so dominant in the playoffs it's actually going to be boring? This is, concern out there from people. So, is there that one thing, just to kind of build on what you were just talking about, is there that one thing that you feel like you still need to see, having seen championship teams, plenty of them in the past? Is there that one thing this team needs to show you to sort of put them in that same company with all those others?
That they can score in the half court and it doesn't have to be a 3 from the corner. I'd like to see something where they can maybe post Al up a little bit on occasion on people. I'd like to see the ball go inside and not necessarily come back out. like they always say, go inside and then pass to the corner and stuff like that. I think they need to score in the paint. In the playoffs, you've got to come up with big numbers in the paint. If you don't, you'll have games where you win, but you'll have games where you get slaughtered if the three doesn't go down. And we've seen it. And the Celtics defend the three very well, and you see very few uncontested threes against them. Usually they're at least contested. So they need to keep that up. They can't get down. Somebody's going to get really hot in a game and beat them maybe where they shouldn't get, they didn't think they're going to lose, and they can't let that get to them. A lot of it's going to be mental. I mean, you got a whole coaching staff that's never been. This is all new ground for them. They haven't been through a playoff series, and so that's going to be interesting to see how they react as coaches to this whole situation. In fact, the more I think about it, there may be more pressure on the coaches than there is on the players right now going into this, because again, they're the unproven quantity. He's done a wonderful job with them. He's got them to listen to him. I think they fear him a little bit. I think he's a real hard ass. It's good. They need the hard ass in that locker room. And so it's going to be interesting to see. He's gone from like, what? Who's the coach? Where did he come from? To coach of the year, coach of the month, maybe coach of 2 months. I don't know, less. It's going to be hard to vote against him, but this month too. So he's made a big leap from nowhere to somebody, and now he's going to go in the playoffs. And, losing the first and second round of the playoffs, and all of a sudden then you're not very good anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and if he can keep them on the same page. So it shouldn't be that hard because, again, nobody's doing what they don't do best. And Tatum is still getting his 25 shots a game. Brown's still getting his 25 shots a game. So as long as those guys can just stay happy with that and move the ball around a little bit, get some other people involved on occasion and have some other people make shots, then this team can go a long way because they have the rim protector. They have the guy. You're going to have, you can't, Al Horford has had a good year blocking shots. And the big reason for this is because the guys are not looking for Al, they're looking for Rob. They're trying to figure out where he is when they drive to the basket because he's so good at coming from off his man to block shots. And that allows Al the opportunity to come from his man and block shots. And he's had a great year, I think, blocking shots, which I didn't expect. So, and he's kind of a question mark in that when you talk about minutes, that's the oldest guy on the team. And they're different minutes now. There's pressure minutes. Every trip up the court is a pressure trip up the court. So he's got to hold up. But they're doing a pretty good job of resting him, I think. And again, I don't see anything wrong with what's going on right now. And so to answer your question as to what is that big thing, I don't think there is the one thing. I think it's just more of the same. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see any drastic change the first game of the playoffs. Where all of a sudden they're not being the team they were for the first 10 minutes, as Evan said, against the Utah Jazz, because I agree with him. I hadn't seen him play obviously in person in a while because they go on the West Coast road trip. But I'm sitting there in the garden and go, holy cow. It reminded me, and they hate this comparison, but it reminded me of the Georgetown Hoyas back in the Big East days, because you always had to count the players out there because it seemed like there were about 7 Hoyas out there who could play defense. And that's the way the Celtics were. It's like every guy who got the ball in Utah got double teamed. And they just didn't cope with it. And Dwayne Wade was sitting about 4 or 5 seats off to my right. I didn't realize he's a Barcelona now of the Jazz. There was a point where, what's his name? Donovan came over to, Donovan came over to Wade. And I was told afterwards by somebody who was sitting there, he said to Wade, he said, we can't figure out what these guys are doing defensively. We have no clue. And it didn't.
Looked like it. It looked like it.
Yeah, I know. And he's a good coach. The other guy, he's a very good coach. It's not like there's some guys, that won't come up with any answers because they don't belong on the sidelines probably to begin with. But he does. And he didn't seem to be able to come up with any answers for what Boston was doing. And that's, if we can keep that as the question, what the heck are they doing? You go a long way before people figure out what you are doing.
Is Rob Williams the difference for you? Like you mentioned him in the sense that, for years, like, this for years, it's been, no matter what they do in the regular season, it's been, but when they get a lot of, but when they get to the playoffs, how are they going to defend Embiid? How are they going to defend Giannis? They have no answer for that guy in the middle. Now we have Rob, like this, barring injury, obviously, and hope that doesn't happen. If you have a healthy Rob Williams out there doing what he's done all year to where he's a defensive player of the year candidate, is he I don't want to say stopper, because we're talking about guys that, you hope to, it's tough to stop him. You just hope to contain him as the adage goes, but is he the answer?
He's the presence that if the substitute, you put Tice off the bench and put him in there, it's not the same guy. who could do the same things, obviously. Yes, I think he's a big difference. And again, he's getting better every week. He's just become a better player. Every time I watch him a week later, he does things I didn't see him do the week before. His confidence level is through the roof. You see him now directing other players around the court, yelling at other players. He makes clutch free throws, something I never thought he would do. He's very good at the end of the game, shooting free throws. So, yeah, he's a big difference that was not there when you came out of training camp. It was like he was a guy who was hurt all the time, and then the first part of the year, he seemed to be hurt a lot. Wow, is this guy ever going to be able to stay healthy for 25 games? Well, knock on wood, so far he has. And when he stays healthy, he just gets better and better. So it gives them the presence. He's not going to stop Embiid, for instance. But what he is going to do is going to get guys looking around. You saw even the Celtics the other night when they drove the lane, they're trying to figure out where Gobert was all the time. They're always looking over their shoulder, and you could see guys were fumbling passes because they're trying to find Gobert before they even get the ball. And so that's what people are starting to do now with Rob. They're starting to look around, trying to figure where he's coming from to block shots. And once they do that, then the Celtics have just what they want them, because that is indecision. And as soon as you get indecision on the part of a point guard on the other team, you're in great shape.
Yeah, I remember asking Bob Ryan about this back, I think, at the start of the season, when Rob was just dunking everything and just, looking like a player that, we haven't seen a lot of. So I asked Bob, I said, hey, Bob, you've been around the team longer than pretty much anybody on this planet.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you, is Rob like one of one in Celtics history? Because I can't come up with a comp for him at all. The athleticism that you see is breathtaking. And I don't think they've had anybody this athletic since, maybe a young Gerald Green, and even at a much different size. But the stuff that he also does in terms of facilitating as an offensive player, as a passer, it's like totally unbelievable. His free throw shooting, as you mentioned, like he's a really excellent, confident free throw shooter right now. And it's to the point where it's like, at a point, there's a jump shot coming at some point with Rob. It's not right now, and I appreciate the fact that he doesn't try it right now. But at some point, that's gonna happen too. I just don't know if I've seen anyone like him in Celtics history. And since we have you on the program and you've been around the team for a little bit, does he remind you of anybody, or is this truly a one-of-one scenario here?
No, I think it's truly a one-on-one scenario. I can't think of anyone even remotely who does that. I'll pose a question to you, and I'll pose a question to Adam too. 5 years from now, rate for me number 1 Tatum, number 2 Brown, and number 3 Rob Williams.
You got it in the order that I would put it in, right there. I like Rob a lot, but Jalen's offensive ability as a guy that can really start to finish through contact right now. And that's the one thing about Jalen that's really impressed me: the physicality at the rim, being able to body guys off him, have people bounce off and finish the play ahead of the line. That's been, for me, a huge thing with Jalen. And I've said this about Jalen for years, and the past 2 years will come to fruition. I think Jalen's going to be a top 5 transition player in the league. And I've always said this because of his burst, his speed. It's just the dribble had to catch up. Now the dribble's caught up, and he's an absolute nightmare in transition. So as much as I love Rob and his unicorn ability, I still think it's Tatum, Brown, and Rob. And Tatum drop a level, and Brown and Rob are right there. But I'm assuming you probably have something maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, I like Rob. I think Rob has a chance to be like a superstar in this league if he can get the jump shot. If he takes the off season and suddenly develops a 15-foot jump shot, I mean, you won't be able to deal with this kid at all, because he brings the defensive presence that neither one of the other 2 guys bring. Now, this not to say they're not good defensive players, but he is a top 5 defensive player of the year. People are talking about first team all defense. People are talking about if he gets an offense, which is, I mean, every time you look at the box score, he's 6 for 8, 7 for 9. I mean, he gets baskets, but they're close. If he can develop a 15-foot jump shot, that's all he needs. Then he suddenly goes from being a 10 or 12 point a game guy to a 20 and 22 point a game guy who's getting 12, 15 rebounds a game and is blocking 4 or 5 shots and is generally causing havoc out there.
So Mike, well, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say I'd go in the same order of Tatum, Brown, Rob, but I think the bigger thing, and this is what you're alluding to, is, for years it's been they have Tatum, they have Brown, they need a third guy. I think they've had the third guy all along. They were just waiting for him. I think Rob Williams, this is your, if everything holds anyway, in terms of, keeping these guys, because you've already got them locked up for a little while. This is your next big 3. This is the incarnation.
No question. And it makes Marcus Smart a 4, which probably makes him maybe the best 4 you'll find in the league, who's rated 4th on this particular on the team. And again, the guys, I can't emphasize enough the guys. I was so glad to see Tice come back. I was a big Tice guy when he was here. He does the stuff that people don't want to do. He sets the screens, he runs the floor, he just does all that junk you hear top coaches talk about. And so again, if we can keep all these guys on the right page, and White starts getting 48% of his shots to go down, then I think you really, if you're going into the playoffs thinking like, I got a good hand here. I got some cards I can really play. See ya. That's my wife leaving.
She wanted to stop by. She can talk Celtics too. She's welcome.
She could too.
I believe it.
She ran the Big East Television Network for a long time. So.
Is that right?
Yeah, she tends to flash back on that on me. But yeah. Anyway, I do think they're going in with a good hand, and I don't think there's any real question marks. I think the big thing is health is going to be the big thing for every one of these teams. Like I said, I mean, what is going on down there? By the way, I have not had the chance to look into it like I should have with the Miami thing and Spoelstra and Butler. What happened?
Well, Butler and Udonis Haslem were getting into it on the bench, and then Spoelstra after the fact was just talking about passionate guys, fiery attitudes. These things happen. They're not always so.
Well, did you see the clip of what he said to Butler though? You only get the one angle of it.
Said he was going to F and kill him, right?
He asked Butler a question, and Spo's eyes are like ginormous. He's like, do you want to fight me? Is that what you said? Like, I don't know what happened. I have no clue what happened, but I think extremely highly of Eric Spoelstra. I think he's continually the most underrated coach in all of basketball. And the fact that people keep discounting the Heat is, I think, a slap in the face to what that guy can scheme up. And I think if you're trying to fight your head coach, who has accomplished a hell of a lot more than, and I'm not trying to bring Jimmy Butler down, but Eric Spoelstra has won NBA championships, albeit with LeBron James and that crew. But like, I'm not quite sure what's going on down there. I just know Kyle Lowry wanted none of it. He got up and left, and then tried to call timeout in the middle of the huddle where people are. I just know Kyle Lowry wants nothing to do with it, and that should tell you a little bit, because Kyle Lowry's a guy that's a no nonsense guy trying to win a ring. Because this maybe the last time he's going to have a shot to do so.
Yeah. I don't. I had no idea Jimmy Butler was as good as he was until I watched him up close last year, and he's really a good player. But yes, if he's not getting along with Spoelstra, that's a problem. And as good a coach as I agree with you, Spoelstra is, he's not winning any championships without Butler playing 40 minutes a game or close to it.
We've talked a lot about Tatum and Brown, as everybody should. I just for giggles the other day while we were watching that blowout of the Jazz, I put on Twitter, is there a young duo in the NBA, age 25 or younger, that you'd rather have than Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown? And most people said, of course not. Some people scoffed and said, young duo, any duo. There's no other duo I'd want in the NBA, let alone young guys over Tatum and Brown, with the importance of wings. And obviously there's some Celtics fan bias in there as well. Some people mentioned, not quite there yet, but maybe they could get there. Booker and Ayton, Mobley and Garland, John Morant and Triple J there in Memphis, Luka and Broomstick with we know how good obviously he is, but what I was thinking about with regard to you is, you've seen a lot of basketball obviously, and never mind the NBA, but a lot of basketball in Boston in particular over the last 4 decades. How does this duo of Tatum and Brown stack up against other duos that we've seen here?
Like who, Bird McHale?
Sure. I mean, you name it. I mean, obviously that one comes to mind. That's my T-shirt right here, Bird and McHale, as a matter of fact.
Nice. Didn't see that the whole time. It was just our jam. Okay. Offensively, I'm not sure there's been a twosome like this that are capable of getting you. Both of them have had 50-point nights, haven't they? Yeah. So I mean that says a lot. They're right there. I mean, they're right there. I can't think of anybody who I would say in my mind comes quickly. Bird McHale off your T-shirt instantly comes to mind. Antoine and Paul comes to mind, but they never won anything, so that's hard to take them all that seriously. And winning is really important, obviously. But I always get in the debate when people want to talk about Michael Jordan, they want to say who's the best player ever. Well, and then they go, well, who? you compare him to LeBron, they'll say, well, Michael had X amount of championships, LeBron only has this amount. Well, if you're going to compare that, then Bill Russell was the best player in basketball by far because he had twice as many championships as Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
And then you get down the list, and Tommy's better than Michael Jordan, and Kuzie's better than Michael Jordan. So you can't throw out NBA titles as a criteria to judge. So I won't knock Antoine and Paul for not winning anything. They were entertaining as hell, but they didn't win anything. So yeah, I'd have to say, you know, I don't go back to Havlicek and who's running around JoJo White, that crew, but I guess you could say they're 1-2, 1-2-3. They're in the discussion, that's for sure.
Is Tatum
you go around the league? You go around the league. There are some people around the league. I think Memphis. I think here's a good one for you. I think Memphis wins the West. I think they're in the finals.
Really?
I think they're that good. Yep.
Despite what we've seen from the Suns and the Warriors, huh?
Oh, the Suns have really done it. He's done a great job with that team. The Warriors, I'm not sure of. They got some issues, and Curry's not playing like the Curry we know.
Yeah.
So I don't think Golden State's a factor, to be honest with you. I think Memphis is the surprise that's going to come out of the West. You could conceivably have Memphis and Boston.
Be a lot of fun.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it would be a really fun series.
Because you bring that kid loves the lights. You know, he loves them.
It's awesome though. It's so like, and for a small market team like Memphis to land a guy like that who has captivated the entire league is amazing. Because you know, everybody talks about the Knicks and moving somehow shoehorning Zion to New York, or you know, the Lakers exceptionalism and all that's like, it is so amazing that this young, athletic dynamo of a point guard who is a highlight reel every night has landed in Memphis, a place where, you know, a fan base that really loves basketball. I mean, if you go back to the grit and grind Memphis days, yeah, did they win anything? No. But were they competitive? Yes. They play a brand of basketball, keep people get behind the grit and grind Grizzlies. Yeah. That's an electric arena when things are going really well. And they have arguably the most electric guy in the league right now with Ja. And it's not just Ja though. I mean, the game they had the other night, was it last night where Desmond Bane had like 28 or whatever, and had a huge game-winning shot, and the whole team's around him when Cassidy Hubbard is interviewing him after the game, and everybody. I mean, the chemistry out there is quite something. There's a lot. Basketball has been really amazing this year. There's a lot of really awesome, unique, wonderful storylines out there. Like the Chris Paul renaissance in Phoenix is great, along with Booker. Terrific. You know, Boston, Memphis. I mean, I know people don't watch a ton of them, but like the Orlando Magic are like kind of fun to watch. Like they have some guys. Wow. There's a lot of fun stuff.
He said they're fun to watch. He didn't say they're good.
No, they're fun to watch though. You know, they're fun to. It's not like the normal Orlando teams, and even like.
Well, Brett, I mean, the Celtics were fun to watch in Brad Stevens' first year. They won 25 games.
I know, but like
they were
even
just
like
fun to watch because they tried hard.
Crazy. This is just. We're in a good spot. Like talent around the league is unbelievable, and and there's more coming. I mean,
you can see it throughout basketball. I mean, all the one seeds are gone. I mean, this NCAA tournament shows you that the St. Peters of the world can go out there with Kentucky and compete, and get to a game and go to overtime and say, "Oh, geez, a great effort by those guys." But they're going to lose here in overtime because Kentucky's Kentucky. Instead, Kentucky gets their tail kicked in the overtime by these guys who make all their free throws. Against Kentucky. Kentucky, meanwhile, is bricking they were what 1 for 6 or 1 for 7 or something free throw shooting in the overtime. And so, yeah, I think the talent level, I guess is what I'm trying to say, has gotten very even. You know, you got kids from small colleges who come in and they play, and you go, wow, that kid can really play. The point guard for Villanova this year, I think he's Peyton Pritchard all over again at Gillespie. It's the same player, same type of thing. He'll end up as his backup point guard for a long time in the league because he's smart, like Pritchard is. But anyway, that's going off on a tangent there.
Well, while you're talking about Pritchard, though, is there Evan and I'm not going to pretend, Mike, you're out there listening to Celtics Beat every single week, although you should, and you can subscribe on iTunes if you'd like to have that notification sent right to your phone. We have been talking all season long, since the off season, like, please, for the love of all that is holy, get Peyton Pritchard in this rotation. While he's out there, he's sitting on the bench, getting the DNP CDs, Schroeder's ahead of him and Richardson's ahead of him, and Pritchard's just not getting an opportunity, and Ime sticking with, that firm 8-man rotation. And it's, please just give this guy a shot, give him a chance. This can at least potentially be the guy that can sort of be that microwave that can give you that spark plug 3-point shooting offense off the bench that we so desperately have been calling for. And we'll see obviously come the postseason if it is in fact sustainable. He's got himself in a position where at least he's got the opportunity. But I just I bask in being thankful that at least he's got the chance now, because I don't really know whatever happened for him to fall out of favor before he ever got the opportunity after being a consistent part of the rotation last year under Brad.
Okay, again, I have no inside information on this, but I think there was an understanding with Schroeder that they would play him a lot, and that they would probably end up moving him during the time they're going to move him. But from the beginning of the year when he signed, I think there was some sort of an understanding there, for lack of a better way to put it, that he would get a lot of minutes so that he could keep his value reasonably high to get more money when he went to wherever he was going to go. So Pritchard had to be the odd man out on that. But as soon as he was gone, Pritchard suddenly got those minutes. It helped that the other kid whose name I always keep forgetting, Neesmith, went down. That helped and opened up more minutes again with that ankle sprain. He popped in the game the other night. I was like, whoa, where's he been? But Pritchard has established now himself ahead of Neesmith in terms of who's going to get minutes. So I think we'll see it. He's going to get the opportunity. Whether he can hit, he certainly can't hit the same run out 10 threes in a row, whatever he had on the trip. But he can he'll get an opportunity to play. And he's a good defender. He's tenacious. He sticks his nose there. He big deflection kind of guy. You keep track of those, which a lot of coaches swear by that. He's always getting a hand somewhere in the ball. So yeah, I think he's going to get the minutes. He's going to get the chance to show us what I think he can do. See, I think he can be a very, very good off the bench guy. I'm not sure he's a starter, but I think he can be an off the bench guy and be a backup point guard and be one of the top backup point guards in the league.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. In the interest of time, because there's a couple more things I want to get to before we let you go. Obviously, we've mentioned a lot of Celtics greats on this show. Well, you were front and center at Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement ceremony there on the mic on the court, and it was a great day, just a great day at the Garden. I thought it was an unbelievable ceremony put on by the Celtics and you and everybody that was involved in it, obviously, from the reunion of the 2008 team to most importantly, the reconciliation of that group, Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. And one of the things that has been a big talking point since, to at least a sort of unimportant talking point with regard to what's going on with the team this year, obviously, but Kevin Garnett mentioned Ray Allen as like, you're next, and we don't need to have that conversation because I don't believe Ray Allen is next. But it did get me thinking, who would be next, recognized? And I made the case. We were talking to Ian Thompson on the show earlier this week, and I think that it could be a few years, but Danny Ainge, not the number 44, but Ainge, like Losky, Ainge in the rafters, recognizing his contributions to the organization, especially if this team, which has his fingerprints all over it, goes out and wins a championship. But what I'm building toward is, as we're, joined by a Hall of Famer in you, what about you? I'm not saying, well, seriously though, like Chick Hearn Hearn has a banner in LA from the Lakers. It's not like this isn't some like asinine thought on my part. And I realized that, I appreciate it. Like Johnny Most,
really what the thought is, I appreciate it.
Well, like Johnny Most, I understand doesn't have, a banner in the rafters, but like, well, and that's what I'm saying. Like I could see another microphone in the rafters for Mike Gorman.
I don't know. That is so far away from anything I ever thought was going to happen to me in my life that it's hard to even conceive. But thanks for having that idea. See what you sell it.
Is it make a call, see what I can do. But look, I don't know how much longer you want to do this. Obviously, you're going to go as long as you want to go. Nobody's kicking you out the door, and we love listening to you every single night. But I think that, like, obviously, whether it's something in the rafters, whether it's some sort of like the Mike Gorman press box, I don't know like some recognition is coming down the line to celebrate you. And I think that would be a very appropriate one.
Well, thank you. And I'm flattered that you would think that way. I'll tell you who's next number to be retired, though. And Marcus Smart.
Really?
Marcus Smart finishes up his career here, which I think he will now that this is gone by. Whether they have him through what, 2 more years, I think, in salary.
It might even be.
He just got extended
the
this
new
year,
contract he just signed in the offseason, so it might be 3 more after this year.
So like the 3 more. So my point is that he's probably not going to go anyplace else. This is probably where he's going to play out the string in Boston. So that could be a number. I would put his number up there if he again played out his career in Boston, and maybe we steal one, get a flag here while he's there, riding the duck boats.
It'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a few guys on this team that, if obviously they stick around and they win a banner or two, Tatum, Brown, Smart, like there's potential there for all of them.
No question. No, and don't forget Rob Williams. Again, depending how things play out down the line. But I guess Marcus is the more immediate because he's more likely to retire before either one of those other guys are likely to retire.
Sure. Although he's got a ways to go. Like he's not even a decade in the league yet. I know it feels like he's been around forever, but it's not.
Maybe 26, 27.
Yeah, 27, I think.
Yeah, I think he's 27.
Yeah. So you figure he's got 3 years, 4 years at the peak of his abilities, and then probably has another down year. So he's probably got 5 or 6 years left if he's a very effective player. Combine that with what he has already, if they would put a championship in the middle of all that, I would put his number up in a heartbeat.
Not to take us back, Mike, but now I feel like I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. How much longer do we get to listen to you?
A while.
I like a while. That's good.
Yeah, probably 2 years. If you were trying to pin me down, I'd say 2 years. I'd like to. I don't know how much I want to go on the road, so I'm going to have that discussion with both the Celtics and stuff. But if we can reach some sort of agreement there, I would say a couple of years. See, if you'd asked me that again 3 months ago, I might have said maybe a year. But now
tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, really so long as the team's fun to watch.
They're fun to watch. They're playing the game now the way the game should be played, which I didn't think they were in the first 25 games of this year, and I didn't think they played at all last year. I thought they became just a ridiculous 3-point shooting team last year. So I like the way they play the game now. I like the spirit with which they play it. I don't care if they don't know who I am or not. It's not a big deal to me one way or the other. And I just wanted to sit there in the garden and watch good basketball being played. And I think there's a chance we're all going to see that over the next 2-3 years. I would not. I would be a champion to put Danny's name or something up there because he's just given his life to the Celtics. Mm-hmm. There should be some return there. Yeah. So again, back to your original question. 2 years at least, I hope.
That'd be great. Sounds good to me.
As long as it's entertaining. Just keep playing like that. We're good. Any deviation, and we got to rethink everything. But yeah, I mean, I was talking about this with Adam, and I've said this a bunch. The beginning of the year it wasn't a chore to watch this team, but it wasn't like my favorite.
It felt like work.
But now,
yeah, it was.
Now
work.
I'm at points where it's like I'm mad when they don't play. It's like, oh man, I like Wednesday night, like my whole day revolves around, okay, I got to be in front of my TV at 7:37, ready for tip off. And I have so much time when I get done with work to get all the stuff I need to get done, but it's all got to get done by 7:37 because once that ball gets tipped in the air, I'm not moving. I'm staying right there where I'm not going anywhere. This team is just, the turnaround has been amazing. And I guess the only thing my last question from Mike would be about Ime and this coaching staff, because this team looked so stuck in a lot of old habits the first half of the year, but they've done an amazing job of sticking with it and being hard on guys and trying to do the best they can to not only change habits for individual guys, but team collectively too. Like we all need to share the ball more. We all need to get back, and like there's just a lot of changes have happened in terms of first year head coaching. Brad was a good first year head coach. He just didn't have the roster that this particular team has. He had a couple of guys that were just placeholders at that particular time.
Yeah.
But I was still, regardless, I was still impressed with some of the things that they were able to do with that particular team. I'll never forget watching Gerald Wallace throw a pass to Jeff Green in the corner in Miami and win a game at the buzzer. And knowing right there, I was like, this guy's a different guy out of timeouts for sure. But in terms of first-year head coaches, I am just significantly impressed with how they've been able to turn these around. And I don't know, because we spend so much time placing blame on people constantly. Last offseason, it was, it's Danny's fault. Oh, it's Brad's fault. Oh, it's I don't know if we're doing a good enough job this year with the opposite, giving guys a lot of credit, and
no blame pie, a credit pie.
Yeah, because I think this is really a remarkable team right now. And Ime, and I pounded the table for Ime as much as I possibly could on the internet for the people that would listen to me. Because I really believed in his background and his history and being a former player and working for Popovich and all that stuff. But this staff has done an amazing job. And Brad putting this team, I just don't know if we're giving enough credit to the people that deserve more credit than we do. Am I wrong on that, Mike?
No, you're not wrong at all. But you touched on something that I tried to touch on at the end of the beginning of the post-game show the other night when we did that Tommy Award thing. I hope people stop analyzing. It was right after Chris Forsberg just buried me with another fact that I didn't understand what he was talking about with some field goal percentage ratio, blah, 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 blah. Just stop. Just hold it a second. Just sit back and relax and watch this team play. This is special what's going on right now. I can't think of any other team I've ever been involved with in college pros or even a league I've been involved with where it's a team that was just a 500 bunch that didn't seem to like each other, become the love boat and win 21 out of 24 games and look like favorites now headed into the playoffs. Celtic fans should sit back and just enjoy that and don't worry what the effective field goal percentage this guy is as opposed to somebody else. Just watch the friggin' game and enjoy it. Again, you mentioned everything. It's true. That first quarter of the night, that was fun. I didn't want to say anything. I didn't even want to call the game. I wanted to sit there with the crowd. One of these days, I'm just going to say, "Hey, you want the experience with like me in the building?" I'm not going to say anything for the next 10 minutes. Seriously, and just let it play. And the crowd in Boston is so good. I mean, they're right there. They want to explode. They were, from the time Kevin Garnett read that primal scream and brought it into the lexicon of what the Celtics were. They really wanted, the crowd is there and wants to make noise. They want to get behind this team. And to just sit there in the building, you don't need me, and you don't need Scal. You just sit there in the building and watch the game. And it's worth watching right now. And you couldn't say that about the Celtics a while ago, but it's definitely worth watching. It's special. I mean, tell me the last time the Celtics team won 21 or 24. I don't think so.
Might go back to like 08, 09, something like that.
You might go back to 58 or 50. Yeah.
Well, 8 games left in the regular season. The next one is Sunday against the Timberwolves. That is at the Garden. Hopefully we'll have just as entertaining and invigorating a start. We can all sit back and just watch and enjoy it. The playoffs are coming. They're rapidly approaching, a couple weeks away. And this team sights on the number 1 seed in the East. We'll see if it ends up happening. Mike, always a pleasure having you on. Truly, it is. It's a great time. Hopefully we can, bug you again in the postseason, maybe.
All right. I count on it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. For Mike, for Evan, I'm Adam. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you find us. We greatly appreciate it. This has been another edition of Celtics Beat. We'll talk to you next week.